Hey everyone, so it's the Unlikely Prepper here, and I am doing another review, and this one is on the Beekeeper's Handbook 4th edition by Diana Sammataro and Alphonse Avitabile. I hope I'm not butchering their names. This is what the cover looks like. There's a bee on it. Put a little bit of information right there on the bottom of what's included in it. And I am friends with multiple beekeepers. They're usually at farmers markets with me. I know of 2 that I'm good friends with, and I know probably another 4. And the 2 that I spoke to about this book highly recommended it. And actually the other one that they said that they really liked was, and oddly enough I almost never think to look at this series of books, is Beekeeping for Dummies. Not that I don't like the series, but typically I find that a lot of times, sometimes they dumb it down or they very briefly skim on a lot of things and they don't go over it very well or in a lot of detail. But they said they actually really like that series, both of them. In addition to any type of beekeeping book that you get, both of them also recommended joining like a beekeeping guild. Both of them are part of the same beekeeping guild, and they meet, I believe it's monthly or bi-monthly. They talk about, in detail, not only do they give classes to people new to beekeeping, but they also go over climate things that are changing. When seasons are changing, they reiterate, making sure that the hives are taken care of and that they are, they have enough sugar water and sugar patties and things like that. To make sure that the bees can survive the winter, because that's a huge one. Even one of my more experienced friends that are into beekeeping, she lost a hive one night on a freak frost that happened in the fall. And she started blending her hives together to try to get them to survive this winter, because she said that the quick changes in how cold it got, how warm it gets, and then how it dips down again were a challenge this year, and still are. So I'll go over this particular book. What I found really helpful about this is that they don't dumb it down for you in any way. They're going to give you all the technical terms. They're going to have you speaking like a beekeeper within the first few chapters. They do also, though, explain well what those terms are. So that you have an idea. It's not like you walk into this going, sheesh, I'm 2 pages in and I'm lost. I didn't find myself getting lost, and the other thing I really loved about this was how much they go into things that have nothing to do with the act of trying to get honey from a bee. They explain the anatomy, the physiology, the lifespan, how bees in general, just their bodies function, and what the hive is doing. It goes into the psychology of what is the hive doing before it ever explains the act of trying to extract honey from the bees that you have. I'll go over kind of some of the chapters and what they're doing. So the first chapter is just understanding the bees. And then it goes into what the colony is up to. The equipment necessary for beekeeping, which is surprisingly, it's weird. You can spend a ton of money going into beekeeping very quickly. There is a lot of equipment, and it's not things that are used in other types of, like you couldn't take beekeeping equipment and turn it into, taking care of your cat. So if you are willing to spend that money, it can go very quickly. However, I've met a lot of beekeepers who are able to make their own frames, to make their own hive boxes, a lot of the other things, and then just buy the little bits of equipment necessary, like the little smoke can and things like that. And I've even met friends that are able to make those themselves. They kind of just do a Mickey Mouse version of it, and it works, and it does its job. And then the 4th one is obtaining and preparing for the bees. Before it even gets there, making sure that you've got everything necessary, and then the act of getting the bees. You can purchase them online. Then it goes into the working bees, packaged bees, and then feeding the bees. They have separate chapters on winter and spring, the management of the hive, and then the second chapter after that is summer and fall management. So you get a good sense of what you should be doing depending on the season. Summer beekeeping is very different than winter beekeeping, and the last thing you want to do during the winter is continue to take their honey from them like it's summer and end up killing them because they have nothing to eat. Because while we enjoy honey, honey is their food. We just supplement and give enough things to them that we can take that honey from them to use for ourselves. So chapter 10 is the queen and the queen rearing, you know, how to get more queens and how to take care of the one that you have. Then chapter 11 is special management problems, so it goes over a lot of like the weird things that could happen with your hive. Products that are from the hive is chapter 12. 13, I think, is a really important one, which is the pathogens and parasites. Oh, Gizmo. Oh, Gizmo. Sorry about that. Somebody is hyper. Let me get back to where I was. So that one, a lot of people don't realize how much bees need to be really closely monitored to make sure that there's nothing getting into the hives. There are things that attack the hives, and a lot of them are parasites and things that are even smaller than the size of a flea. I've had many a beekeeper tell me stories about, you know, this parasite got in when they went away for a weekend, came back, and boom, the parasite was there. And it also will give you ways to avoid having, you know, things that you can add to the hive or protect the hive with to keep those diseases from coming in. And then they have another one that's all pests of honeybees, which is some of the larger things, more, I think, like flea-sized and up, that can try to attack the hive, and how to prevent them as well. And then the last chapter, chapter 15, is all on pollination. They have appendixes in here on things like pheromones and how to take care of bee stings, paraffin dipping, the difference between European and Africanized honeybees, pointers for urban beekeeping, mite infestations, things like that. This goes into a ton of detail. I was really impressed with this. Now, I have not read the entire thing. I have read bits and pieces of each chapter to kind of get an idea of what, you know, they've got. But they've got entire tables of, let me see if I can get that in light, entire tables that go over bits and pieces of information, like, you know, the components of beeswax, and a lot of just information on bee venom, you know. And then in there you have some that are just recipes on, you know, the sugars necessary to give them, and things you can do with the wax and the honey and all the different things. It is probably pretty close to an encyclopedia on bees, and one of the other things that I love was the front cover gives you a ton of facts on bees in general. Things of their flight, their stings, and I think the more you read on this, the more you start to respect what it is that bees do. You know, there aren't many species on the planet that are born and instantly begin doing what it is that they are supposed to do for the rest of their lives. Bees do that. The first thing that a bee does when it comes out of the piece of honeycomb that it's in, after the larva hatches and comes out, the first thing it does is it cleans where it was reared, which is unheard of, and then it immediately goes to work. And it just goes to show that the bees have it all figured out compared to us. But I love this book. I plan on putting it into my wish list on Amazon of things that I plan to get in the future. I would love to get into beekeeping. I believe that's going to be a battle, seeing as I live in a mobile home park, and they have very strict rules on what can be and cannot be on the property. Now, I know some of you who are more towards the south kind of get a chuckle out of that, but up north, mobile home parks are treated like gated communities, and they're very picky about what we do. It's similar to, no, it's not really like being in an apartment complex. It's kind of like having condos all near each other, and the land is still owned by the condo owner, the person who owns the land. I cannot just do whatever I want with my land. I have to, my garden, I had to bring specs by and explain to them what I planned on doing with my garden. I can't paint my house without telling them what color. Now, technically, they can't deny me the right because I own the home. I just don't own the land. But they are very picky about what goes on around here. So I believe it's going to be an uphill battle for me to try to get bees and keep them. And I think a lot of it is going to have to be explaining and creating tolerance for them and letting them know that these bees are not going to be getting into hordes and stinging children everywhere all over my community, but that they're going to pollinate the flowers better and that people's gardens will flourish because of those bees. So, in the meantime, before I get bees, I am going to invest in getting this handbook. This one here is just a library book, so I just wanted to see if it was worth purchasing. The last thing you want to do is read some reviews and think it's fantastic and order it, get it home, and then say, this sucks. Why did I spend my money on this? So I have looked this over enough for me to feel that this is thorough, and I have looked this over well enough that I am certain that I would be set with this book, maybe getting another 1 or 2 books, and I would probably have enough information on beekeeping to successfully do it while still implementing in YouTube and the help of a guild. So if you are interested in beekeeping and it is something that you want to read about, either see if your library has a copy of this book, or hop on Amazon or go to a local bookstore and see if you can get it there and find out if it's the right thing for you and your family and the amount of time that you have. But I was thoroughly impressed with what this had to offer, and it is on my wish list, so I think that says enough if I'm willing to get it. Okay? That is everything I have for you, so Unlikely Prepper out.